Ken put together these really awesome props for their high school one-act competition team, and we're going to highlight these builds. We're going to break them down, talk about the materials used for the frames and just the different techniques involved. And these are just really cool. And I didn't even know what a one-act competition was, but apparently it's just that. It's a one-act kind of play that's put on. And he said, let's see, one of the requirements is everything that they use, the props and the stage, has to be set up in under 10 minutes. And so that's where MakerPipe and Conduit came in, which is really cool that they made these and were able to, kind of get what they wanted and needed for that competition with MakerPipe and Conduit. There it is, all set up, as we can see on stage, the different props they have. And we're going to highlight the different ones and the different techniques used. And this frame particularly, I think, could be used for a garden enclosure or, a greenhouse. I think it could be useful for all kinds of things. So I'm going to break down this frame really more in detail than the other one. But first, we'll kind of look at this big giant one here. This is supposed to be a mountain. I think it's 10 feet tall and 14 feet wide, and really awesome, really massive frame. And essentially, they just used EMT conduit and MakerPipe connectors for both of these frames. If you don't know what those materials are, EMT conduit's a steel tubing you can get off the shelf at places like Lowe's, Home Depot, and different hardware and home improvement stores. You'll find it in the electrical aisle. It's usually about $1 per foot. So it's a pretty economical option for building, and it's really easy to put things together. And then we manufacture steel connectors in upstate South Carolina that you can use to combine pieces of EMT conduit together to make frames for whatever it is that you want to make, whether it's a greenhouse or a desk or a mountain for a prop for a place. So really cool, and this is just an awesome build. And essentially, it's just a giant cube utilizing some of the MakerPipe T-connectors it looks down here at the very bottom that the verticals are attached to. And essentially, it's the same design on all three tiers, the very bottom, the middle, and then the top, where there is, actually the top is a little different, but the bottom and the middle are the same, where there's a T-connector grabbing onto the vertical on the sides, and then a 180-degree connector in the middle to kind of break up the span and then add another vertical. At the very top, it's a bit different, where they use 90s to add this corner connection for 3 pieces of conduit to send one pipe to the other side, where it's mirrored on the other side. There's some angled bracing in here, which is going to help a lot. And then there's also some kind of wing pieces sticking off of here using the adjustable angle connector from MakerPipe, which allows you to kind of add this angled bar to spread out the tarp and the frame. I think they said they dyed this canvas to get that mountain look, and then here it is all in place and is really awesome looking, just a really cool build and structure. And then here, this is a smaller frame they're using. I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent. I think just some kind of maybe a cave or something like that, like next to the mountain. Not entirely sure, but looks really cool and is something, like I said, that I think this frame could be converted into all kinds of stuff. So I'll highlight this one in more detail, where essentially, because this has to be, and all of these things have to be set up quickly, they utilize something really cool, which is the quick clamp that we have on the website and we've talked about, where it's essentially a bike lever that works with our hardware, so you can quickly open and close connectors to create quick release connections. And that's what they've used here. But essentially, this frame consists of 4 verticals. You've got 2 in the front and then 2 in the back. And the 2 in the back are shorter than the ones in the front. And this creates this angled shape. And the way they accomplish that is by adding a adjustable angle connector at the very top of the vertical, which has this top piece that grabs onto the vertical there, and then you have this other piece that angles to whatever angle you want, pretty much, and that piece is what's sending this piece of conduit down to another adjustable angle connector, where again the top half is grabbing onto the vertical that we looked at, and then the bottom of the connector is what is this red piece of conduit, this angled piece of conduit it's going down and grabbing onto. And then of course it's the same thing mirrored on that side as well, just to be able to angle this piece of conduit down. And that's essentially how they did the main kind of walls. And then between the 2 sides, they use the MakerPipe T connector, which is the most common connector, most versatile. It just joins 2 pieces of conduit together. They've got 2 of those essentially running this horizontal piece of conduit from one side of the build to the other. And then it's the same exact thing down here with 2 more T connectors. And then it's the same thing down here to add a T connector going from one side to the other. And then they've also got 2 more T connectors underneath those to essentially add these horizontal pieces that run from the front to the back. And then the same thing up here, they're using more T connectors. Like I said, most common and most versatile. Definitely used the most to add this brace in the middle there. And that's essentially the whole frame put together. Not a whole lot of connectors, just a lot of T-connectors and then a few adjustable angles. And I actually modeled this build with our MakerPipe mini connectors, which if you're unfamiliar, these are just 3D printed versions of the connectors. And they don't function the same way in terms of how you put them together, because normally, the adjustable angle connector is 4 total pieces that you combine all together to make one connection. But this is essentially just a miniature version of that so that you can plan out builds and see how the conduit is going to interface with each other, because this does function the way that the connectors do, where the through connections, meaning the piece of conduit that runs continuously through it, you can see how that's going to work in your build and figure out how to put things together and how you need to assemble it. So for example, the adjustable angle connector here attaches to the vertical, and then you get that angled piece by it going in the bottom half of the adjustable angle connector and terminating inside of there. And then, like I said, there's used there and at the top to create this angled piece. And then, of course, we've got all the T connectors running these coffee stirrs from different parts of the build, adding these braces here, these cross supports, and the pieces are kind of from front to back. So if you have an idea in your head, I always recommend that's the best way to start a project, is to get it out of your head. And if you're able to draw it, that's awesome. If you're able to model it in like Fusion 360 or something, that's awesome. But if you're like me and you can't really do both of those things, don't have the skills or the time, then the mini connectors make it really fast and easy to get that idea out of your head. And you can learn how the connectors are going to work. Whenever you do order them, you can see how they need to be oriented and how they're going to interface with the different pieces of conduit so you can build your project. So definitely wanted to highlight those. And like I said, I think this specific build could be utilized for making a greenhouse or a garden enclosure, all kinds of cool things that you could kind of turn this frame into. But we can see here, they have 10 minutes to put this together, and they shared a video. I'll be sure to link this down below if you want to watch the whole thing. I definitely recommend it. It's pretty cool to see. But essentially, in about 6.5 minutes, they're able to put together this whole frame here for, or all these frames here that we looked at, and set up their whole production. They got the mountain in place there, and they're setting up the tarps and everything, and it only took them about 6.5 minutes, and they had 10 minutes allotted to them to do it, which is really awesome that they could put this together that quickly, and just really cool that they were able to use MakerPipe and Conduit to get this done. So really cool, Ken. Thanks so much for sharing this. Glad you found it useful and were able to use it in this way. Really awesome to see. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like and consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.